Hello aspirants and welcome again to Legacy IAS Academy. In this lecture, we will be discussing about the ongoing talks of the ceasefire between Israel and Palestine. So what is the scenario over here? So the conflict, you may call it a war, a conflict or genocide. It depends how you are viewing this humanitarian crisis, the deaths that are taking place or the deaths that have reached a number close to 1 lakh over the last 2 years. Now, a ceasefire may be on the cards over here. How that is because it is now being brokered by the United States of America, who is involved over here. USA in fact has come up with its 20-point plan for the ceasefire. Now in that 20-point plan of the ceasefire, one of the point is the disarmament of the Hamas. Disarmament by the Hamas. That means completely disarming themselves. That is one of the clause, and that is probably going to be non-negotiable requirement of Israel if it wants to approve the ceasefire. But the question is, will Hamas agree to hand over all its weapon during or as a part of this deal? Probably not. So we will see what is the precedent of such a scenario. In such a scenario, what does the international law says, what Hamas will be ready to let go of, and what Hamas would want to cling on to, and at the same time, what are the non-negotiables of Israel, and what role can the West or specifically the USA can play over here. So let's get started with the news. Now, even though the ceasefire talks are underway, Israel-Hamas conflict still exists, still continues, or rather you can say the genocide, the destruction, the human rights violation, all those things are still continuing. Of course, because the ceasefire has not yet taken place. Yes, it has not been signed by all the parties, not been agreed by all the parties, but it is going on and it is probably on the cards. Now, what is the core dispute of this ceasefire? The core dispute is with respect to Hamas not wanting to completely disarmament. What is the requirement over here? USA has given its 20 points and said that Hamas's disarmament is needed. Right, but probably Hamas will not be. Experts are arguing Hamas may not be ready to do this. Now, Israel is insisting that there will be no end to the war. Now, is that even a war or a one-sided accentuation of power? That's a different thing. That's a perspective which we can have. But Israel here is saying that there will be no end to war unless Hamas surrenders weapons as well as governance. So till the time Hamas does not surrender all of its weapons. So when we are saying weapons, it is all the weapons that we are talking about. Right. The other side of it is with respect to Hamas. Hamas says that we will not disarm. We will not going to be disarm as in completely disarm. Now, let's understand who is right in this. Now, right can be a subjective thing, but let us see what does the international law says, and let us look at arguments from both the sides. Now, before we move ahead, a small announcement with respect to the new batches that are going to start from 16th and 25th October for the regular and weekend batch respectively, with a maximum batch size of only 40 students for personal attention to each and every student. You will be guided, mentored and trained and taught by the UPSC experts. Once you enroll with us, there are a lot of advantages you will have. Some of them are over here, that is comprehensive coverage of GS papers, one-on-one mentorship, probably the most important one, along with doubt solving and regular interactions with the educators that you just saw over here, and daily mains answer writing practice. We also provide, of course, with the test series for both prelims and mains, and we have a 360-degree coverage for current affairs, wherein the entire week's current affairs are covered via the live classes to take care of all your current affairs needs. Now, if you want to enroll with us, you can simply download the app, which has a provision for enrollment, or log on to our website or call these numbers. Now, let's move ahead with the news. So let's see Hamas's changing or differing stance. Now the public stance of Hamas is rejection of disarmament. Publicly they have rejected disarmament. However, privately behind the scenes it is said that they are ready for partial decommissioning of the offensive weapons. Yes, of weapons can be of two types, offensive and defensive. So they are ready for partial decommissioning of the offensive weapons. Now the ECFR, the European Council's foreign relation expert, who is Hugh Lowett, he has said that Hamas may consider surrendering some offensive weapons but not all, right? Because after the signing, what anything can happen, and you are left with none of the arms, then you cannot defend yourself. Now of course defending could be done by defensive weapons, so that is a separate argument, but then the weapons are kept by a particular group, organization, or a country also to deter the other side. So here the offensive weapons could be used as a deterrent against Israel. Defensive weapons will just to defend yourself, but the offensive can also be used as a deterrent, as a result of which they may not even want to disarm the offensive armaments also completely. Now what is Israel's standpoint? Israel says that the disarmament, complete disarmament, is a non-negotiable precondition for a lasting peace. Now Hamas also demands complete dissolution, Hamas's complete dissolution. So not just complete disarmament, Israel is also demanding that Hamas should completely dissolve, completely get over, and also lose any of its political or governance control that it might have, because Israel sees Hamas as a militant group and a governing threat. That's why complete dissolution is what is asked by Israel in this ceasefire. Now let us look at the legal context. As far as the international humanitarian law is concerned, the armed groups under occupation, they retain limited rights to resist. They should have limited right to resist, which says that you should still be having certain limited right. You should not completely dissolve, but certain limited rights should still exist with you to resist any future harm against you. Now the Western powers, however, who are there, for example USA, they demand total demilitarization, a similar condition which was presented during the Oslo Accord, which was again at that time in the 1990s rejected by Hamas at that time as well. Now what is the experts' insight over here? The experts say that Hamas may give up offensive arms, that is missiles, etc., but may not give the defensive, that is the light weapons, which is required to defend itself. I hope that's clear. At the same time, Hamas will only surrender when a sovereign Palestinian state exists. Now, it is not just the potential or the promise, but you need to make the Palestinian state exist completely. Only then they will fully surrender. In the meanwhile, partial surrender, partial disarmament can be on the cards. Right. At the same time, Hamas refuses to hand over tunnel network maps, which is a key strategic asset. Tunnel network maps means below the surface of the earth there will be various tunnels and the various routes through which Hamas can strategically use. So they may refuse to hand over these as well. So these are probably the blockades from the Hamas's side in the ceasefire. Not Hamas's side, basically a roadblock between both the parties that are involved. Now, if you look at the power vacuum argument, it is that Israel's war, it has weakened Hamas, but at the same time it has led to small armed gangs as well, and many analysts say that Israel has armed the local gangs to profit in such situation. Now Hamas seen by many in Gaza, Hamas is actually looked upon an organization which rather brings stability. right? So many in the Gaza Strip looks at Hamas as an organization which is bringing stability. If Hamas would not be there, the small other gangs would destroy and cause a lot of issues, as a result of which Hamas is seen as a stabilizing force. Now here the role of West is important. Ceasefire's durability will depend of course on US and the Western pressure on Israel, but there is a risk that Israel may convince the Western power for a non-negotiable full demilitarization. Now if that happens, it will repeat the Oslo Accord pattern which Hamas had rejected. So let's hope for the best. Let's hope that the common sense prevail and the ceasefire is established, so that the human rights are respected, the lives of the people are respected. Thank you.